They,
Okay.
Because he called me asking.
they is
about it.
Andre is
Why'd
Scarlett.
you have to
Oh,
take-
the one that burned it down?
Spoil.
J and T are close.
Drive very nice.
I've got 8:30. Let's call this meeting to order. The first item is the adoption of the agenda.
Maybe we approve the agenda as presented.
A motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is the minutes from the June 17th meeting. Any additions or amendments?
Maybe we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Morning, Dewey. How are you today?
Good.
Good. Thanks for coming.
If you don't mind, I'd like to say thanks to everybody in this room for everything that they've done in the last week, keeping the city afloat, keeping everything working. We all know there are great bunch of managers that are proving it every second of the day. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the kind words. We do have great people. Let's just jump right into reports then. Underground facilities grant.
Morning, gentlemen. I do have one action item this morning. On the 22nd, we opened bids for the replacement of mixers and inspecting and cleaning of Reservoir 3. We had one bid and one no bid. I have researched this company. They have done quite a bit of work like this, as much and much more extensive than we're asking. There's no way for them to know what the cleaning is going to cost until they get in there to see what's in there, how much sediment's in the bottom. So my recommendation is a motion to accept the bid from Proceanic Mixer for the mixer changeouts and the reservoir inspection for $23,995, with the silk cleaning be quoted after the inspection. There's no way they can tell. And this is the budget on this item was $60,000, but it's in the 2023 budget. We moved it up because kind of kill two birds with one stone here.
How do they do that, Grant? They get a diver in there? or
They
what?
get a diver, and they also have a robotic camera that they can put in there. Has big lights on it, and
I'm assuming there's no way that cleaning can run it up to that budget number probably though, right?
it's hard to say.
Okay.
I don't see that, but it's all depending upon how much sediment's in the bottom and how extensive the cleaning goes.
You know, when the last time that was inspected, I know we didn't put mixers in, but
We put mixers in at 17, and those divers kind of give us but I think the official one was 13. And those divers said there was a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch in 17 was what they reported.
So when was this done the last time?
I think officially 13.
13. So from 13 to 17, we got between 1/2 inch and an inch. So
Yeah.
I'll move we accept the bid from Proceanic for mixer change out and reservoir inspection for a total of $23,995 with self cleaning to be quoted after inspection.
second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the bid for Proceanic for mixer changeout and reservoir inspection for a total of $23,995 with silk cleaning to be quoted after inspection. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I don't have a lot to add. Just we'll let the board know that the risk and resilience assessment has been submitted to EPA, and we kind of got clarification that they did get it. So that is cleaned up, and we're working on the other end of that, which is the emergency response plan. And we have 6 months to update that, and we're making huge headway on that right now. Other than that, that's all I got, unless the board has any questions.
Guess none of that repair work they did out at the park for when they did that CIPP down there in those low spots.
It didn't fare very well.
Didn't make it very well, I'm guessing.
How's that R3 hole?
According to the maintenance guy, it has a tile there, and it got up on the green and started to vacuum and pretty big hole in the top of it. I'm gonna guess 40-foot radius.
Works those rocks and things are working.
We're 300 ton of ditch liner away.
Any more questions for Grant? Grant? Let's move on to IT and broadband. Jim?
Morning.
Good morning.
Got a couple action items. As y'all know, we opened up bids for the conduit contractor for the grant one, June 1st. Got the tab sheet there, pretty wide range of bids. I believe Chris Coleman did get most everything that was outstanding turned in yesterday. Jeff might have to verify it, but I think the second half of the recommendation might be moved by now, but we're making a recommendation to accept his bid, pending him turning in all the outstanding paperwork, and if not, move on to the second one.
I have a question on the pull boxes and pedestals.
Awful low. But yeah, go ahead.
Well, what does that actually mean? I'm assuming that that's not for the,
We provide pole boxes, the pedestals themselves, and they just have to put them in the ground.
okay, that was,
There's tying some conduit together and various things like that, but a little bit of gravel on the bottom.
from $19 to $1,000, it's a little spread. So.
Yeah. I kind of think the ones in the higher number, they're just throw a number at the wall and see if it sticks.
Okay, well, thank you. Are you comfortable with everything in there?
Pretty much. Yeah, I think, like I said, he's turned in his paperwork, so I think he's got all his approval for his performance bonds. So yeah, I think we're ready to go. He's looking at starting end of August, he's thinking.
After this approval, once once the board approves a contract award, it has to go to USDA for approval. So
They don't have to approve the bidder, but they have to approve the contract. As long as we select the low bidder, they don't have to approve that. They want their stamp on the contract.
which they've already approved once. So August, the end of August, hopefully would work, given, the time that it takes to hear back on some of these approvals.
Chris learned from the best, and he's pulled a lot of pipe in his day. So, big project for him, but I think he handled it.
It's nice to keep the money here.
It's great to keep the money.
Yeah, it is. I make a motion to accept the low bid from Coleman Plumbing in the amount of $592,000 pending completion of outstanding bid requirements by July 8th. Or accept the second lowest bidder, Urban Cable Construction LLC, in the amount of $796,511.78. Second.
There's been a motion and a second to accept the low bid for Coleman's Plumbing in the amount of $592,000 pending completion of outstanding bid requirements by July 8th. Or accept the second lowest bidder, Urban Cable Construction LLC in the amount of $796,811.78. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Second item we've got, you all approved the cable plow a couple board meetings ago. We've got the specs just about ready to send out. I've got first draft to Jeff. Hopefully send that out soon. We don't have a vehicle. We've only got one vehicle in the company that can pull it. So we're looking at buying a used day cab semi-truck diesel. Recommendation is to just have the fleet mechanic check some out, find the best option. It's kind of, since it's used, it's not really very good for quotes or bids or anything like that. It's just hard to find something by the time you send out a quote or a bid, whatever, it's already gone. So we're recommending not to exceed price of $25,000, find the best available unit. There will be some other ancillary expenses like radio and stickers and a few other things that will add another $1,000 or $1,500 to the cost. But the purchase price not to exceed is $25,000 is what we're asking for.
Grant, you'll be able to use this
Yeah.
regular too.
We're gonna wait on bidding the trailer until we know for sure what we've got truck-wise.
Think you can find a used truck?
Yeah, we've seen some as low as 15,000. They found some decent ones for 23. They'll have high mileage, but they're road trucks, so high mileage doesn't mean a lot.
What are your external funding sources that you're looking into?
What's that?
Your external funding sources that you're looking
Oh, Jeff's looking into some, was it our
The
AR?
ARPA funds,
Okay.
working with the county, there's just funds available, and part of those funds cover internet. We don't quite know if it covers equipment, but we're certainly asking that question. So, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. All they can say is no. So that's what he's referring to there.
I mean, might not work out, but that's what you can, right?
I'll make a motion to approve the fleet mechanic and purchasing agent to acquire the best available used day cab truck for a not to exceed purchase price of $25,000.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve fleet mechanic purchase agent to acquire the best available used day cab truck for a not to exceed purchase price of $25,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Not a whole lot of other things are made pretty well out of my department made it out of the flood. Not too bad. Spent some time Friday rerouting some stuff, but no damage. And our equipment, we did have several customers had to turn off because they don't have places to put their stuff anymore. We also do have some cameras active now. All of them have been hung by the electricians. About half of them have been powered up and have fiber. Hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have most all the cameras up and running.
Who monitors those?
Monitors the police station and recordings. That's about all I've got, unless you got questions.
More questions for Jim? Thank you, Jim. Water treatment, Travis.
Morning.
Morning.
Just update, the surface wash line replacement project, that was completed yesterday. And so all the filters are completed. Everything's working good on those, so. Not much else to add, other than, any questions I'll be happy to answer.
No news is good news, I guess.
How's CO2 tank working? Everything okay?
Works great.
Great.
Yeah, it's large enough, usually don't have to make an order for about every 2 months, so. But yeah, everything's working great on it, so.
More questions for Travis? Thanks, Travis. Electric distribution, Doug?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Southeast substation updates. We did receive 2 bids for the circuit switcher. We opened those on Friday, June 18th. After reviewing those 2 bids with Lutz Daly and Brain, we want to move forward and reject those 2 bids and rebid. Evidently in the specifications, they expect a 2,000 amp switch, and we only need a 1,200 amp switch, which excluded a lot of other vendors. Also, in the specifications on the disconnect portion of that switch, it wasn't real clear on the specifications. One bidder didn't bid a disconnect switch at all, and the other bid a manual switch, which we don't want. We want an electric switch, and so we'd like to amend the specifications and then send that out for rebid. We'd like to get that sent out tomorrow, unless the board has any issues with that. We'd like to get the best product here. This thing's gonna have to be here for a long time, long after I'm gone. We want this thing to perform, so we want what we want, what works, what we're used to, and I think that's the best thing moving forward, is to just revise the specifications and send that out for rebid. So we'll get that sent tomorrow. Hopefully have a 3-week turnaround, and then bring that back to you. The direct buried primary at Lakeview, that project is done with the exception of yard repair. Our personnel lift, we did open bids on June 29th. We did receive 2 bids. We're currently reviewing those and hope to have a recommendation at the next meeting. We're starting on the overhead to underground project. Rain's kind of pushed us off a little bit, but we have started that project. The second electrician truck, we have received that, and are scheduled to take that to Kansas City next week on July 7th for the tool bed install. Other than that, that's all I've got.
Where's your overhead underground this going?
Yeah, I didn't mention that. We're going to be working over between Crestwood and Morrow,
Okay.
west of Benton. If you know where Bill Anderson lives, kind of his backyards.
Our mutual aid deal worked okay?
Yeah, crew was there a little over 6 hours, just trip over and then, back home that night after they got done. So that crew very much appreciated our help. They were limited on talent, they're struggling to hire guys that know what they're doing. They were struggling on some three-phase banks and some troubleshooting on trying to get some power where they thought they had it. It was ended up being backfed, and it just, their knowledge is,
I'm glad we could help out.
so they appreciate it.
Will you get more bids when you revise those?
We will, we could, yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Doug? Thanks, Doug. Electric production, Carl?
Morning, Dan.
Hey.
Unit 6, we did get that repaired. And it's been actually committed the last couple of days, possibly again today, there's some kind of constraints. So I believe Fairview, so it has been running more. Demolition, you can see that big pile the excavators are sitting on. They got that out there in about a day and a half. It's unbelievable how fast they moved that. But after the bowl area out there, where that's going to be recycled, reused by the city. Other than that, I really don't have a lot to add. Travis did mention the piping project, but it was complete. We just got to get some tools and equipment all back there now. Want to answer any questions?
What's cardboard bring this time?
I haven't received this month's yet. I usually don't get it till the 5th or 6th, but June was 135. So it's on its way out.
Back up.
I assume the county could probably use some of that basic fill. Just try to replace those around.
For some of the things they use it for, it'd be good.
That's one.
Is that the brick over on 41 and O? That's brick from there that you're hauling in there? They're gonna crush that up, is that what you're saying?
Bill said they were going to separate it and use the different.
Well, I noticed a lot of brick over there, and I wondered if that's where it was coming from.
That's it. It's kind of between the gravel pile and
Yeah,
the brick from the brick, or the concrete from the brick.
More questions for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Wastewater, Nolan.
Nolan, have you been busy?
A little bit.
Part-time Nolan.
I don't really have much to add to what's in there. Of course, everybody knows about the flood. Then I guess huge thanks goes out to pretty much every department. Everybody's helped in some way, shape, or form, it seems like. I guess kind of an update on that. Pat's been working with RS Electric and Marshall Automation. There were several motors that went underwater in the filter building and a couple other basements. Some of those are gonna have to be rebuilt just because they're old enough motors that you can't really find one or get one built. There's a few of them that they have found in stock in different places. Really just waiting on parts to, I know RS is waiting on a transformer and some other stuff for the switch gear or the motor control centers, but we have 3 pumps running currently. With the rain that we got yesterday, we were actually still bypassing just a little bit. We're just trying to keep our heads above water at this juncture. So. I answer any questions you guys have. Hopefully.
I think think we'll probably get to some more discussion in a minute, but shout out to you and all your guys. I know it's been, and everybody, I mean, but I know it's been really hard on you and your crew. So, does anybody have any questions for Nolan right now? Not right now. Not right now, okay. We'll get back to you, Nolan. All right, thanks. Tony's not here. You got anything for him?
No, I don't have anything to add. I think he kind of kept a few things out, just because he knew he wasn't gonna be here. I can't mention the USDA grant. Round 2 documents, he did send all those off, before, he left. I think we're waiting on, one form from the bank and another form, and I've got a form for you gentlemen to sign before you leave, relating to that. So it's the, secretary's certificate, the same one we signed on round 1. So getting closer on that. I know he's been working on the budget. We did have bids for the office building. We did get 2, and we'll be reviewing those and hopefully have a recommendation at the next meeting.
Jeff, are they local or do you remember?
They're not local. Not local. One may be using subcontracting part of it to a local business, but no, and I just, Stephen had asked about bids, or I think Wick had asked about bids, and we are having a lot of trouble getting bids. A lot of trouble. I mean, I'm gonna just use Travis for example. He has sent bids out for doors to be replaced at the water treatment plant. We sent it out the first time, we got 1 bid. We sent it out the second time, we got 1 bid. We sent it out to 4 pages of vendors the last time, and we got 1 bid. 4 pages. I mean, there's like 40. We sent requested bids from probably over 40 suppliers, vendors, and got 1 bid back. So he's going to work on calling just to ask the question I think we all have is why. I mean, I think we've got some ideas why that is, but we're going to follow up. And then the bid was substantially over budget as well. I mean, we didn't open the first one, we didn't open the second one. I went ahead and made the decision to open the bids we got yesterday. I mean, what are you going to do? You just can't keep putting it off if it needs done. And it was substantially over budget. So we'll discuss that more later, but I just wanted to share, the situation we're having and just receiving bids. So it's tough. That's all I've got to update for Tony. Megan's on vacation as well. Don't have anything to add really to her part. Be glad to try to answer any questions for either one.
I think we'll just jump right into your report.
Jump right into my report. Well, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
As you good gentlemen know, we've had severe flooding. I don't know, there's been different rain amounts thrown out there as to what the rain totals were. Really all I can tell you, and I think I've been sending you guys updates, but this is by far the most rain or the highest water levels of Salt Fork Creek we've ever seen. There were marks on the building from the flooding of 1993. I think that's kind of what sticks out in everybody's mind is a huge flood, high water levels. The water of this event exceeded that level by 19 inches. There was another event down there in 1973 that was higher than the flood of 93. It exceeded that level by 13 inches. So it didn't just get up and barely exceed previous records. It took flooding down there to a whole new level, unfortunately. So you can see here in the board packet, we've got trucks underwater, buildings underwater, equipment underwater. There was a levee constructed after the flood of 93 to prevent 100-year flood events. And when we got down there, you couldn't even see the levee. I mean, you couldn't tell there was one there. So I don't know. You know, obviously we'll kind of evaluate that. Burns and McDonald have been, you know, they're working with us on a project down there. They're going to try to come down and maybe look at what happened and offer some alternatives or maybe some ideas. I don't know. Where do you stop? You know, do you plan for 100-year flood, a 500-year flood, a 600-year flood? I mean, you can do a lot of things for something that may or may never happen. And I think we all thought the 100-year flood level was sufficient for more than 20 years anyway. So I do want to extend my appreciation to staff. Everybody has done a fantastic job. I think that's part of being in a municipal utility. You know, you have multiple departments, but when you have an event like this, everybody grabs the rope and pulls the same direction. I mean, it's really just fun to watch as a manager. The groups come together. You know, it doesn't take much involvement for me. I think everybody knows if somebody else needs help in something like this and moves that direction and does what's needed. They realize where they can help. So just want to thank staff for all their efforts and helping out. We have been tracking all of our expenses. Talked to Tony Day several times. You know, hopefully there's an opportunity we could have get some reimbursement if this is declared a disaster from SEMA. We don't know if that's going to happen, but if it does, we certainly want to have all our ducks in a row so we can participate in that. Talked to him a couple times. I think the guys have pretty much, got everything covered. There's really, we've got ServPro down there, local ServPro group, down there doing a lot of cleaning for us, so we can kind of get in, clean out switchgear buildings. I mean, there's silt, sewage. It's not a very good environment. We still got to do the headworks building, but until we get the new drives and controls and that kind of stuff fixed where we can keep the basement dry, there's no sense in cleaning that up. So. Another thing I would like to mention, I know the community, I mean, this has affected the community as well. A lot of flooded basements, a lot of backed up sewage. The system in town did not, the sanitary sewer system did not back up due to the flooding at the plant. There's kind of two separate issues there. The sanitary sewer system is designed for sanitary sewer. And some overflow. It is, you take into account, there's a fudge factor in that into inflow and infiltration. There's a certain amount of stuff that you anticipate and expect. As the board knows, in 2008, utilities began a substantial effort to reduce inflow and infiltration on the utility side, which are the public mains. In that time, we have replaced or refurbished since 2008 20.6 miles of sewer lines at a cost of about $4.7 million. So we are investing lots of dollars in maintenance into our sanitary sewer collection system. Also in that time, we have we've inspected with a video camera 220 miles of sewer lines. That allows us to spend the money where it's needed the most. So where we've made this 20.6 miles of repairs or refurbishments has been the very worst sections or areas of our lines. So I think we have also cleaned in that time over 240 miles of line. I would put our inspection program and maintenance program of our sanitary sewer lines up with the best of them. That department has done a very, very good job over the years in maintaining that line. I think if Megan was here, she could second that, because before we started that, we used to have a lot of insurance claims. We get down to now where we maybe have one or two a year. And it's because of the dollars that we've invested in the public side. What we can't invest money in as a utility is the private side. There are probably as many or more miles of private service laterals connected to the public main that don't get inspected, have issues, that don't get repaired. I mean, you typically don't repair a sewer line to your home until it doesn't flow. That doesn't mean if your sewer is flowing, that doesn't mean there's not issues with it. There's foundation drain connections, gutter downspout connections. None of these are legal or are permitted. But the people that live in those homes, probably that existed when they bought them. I mean, it's just a bad situation. And when you're talking about things that are underground, they're hard to identify. You can't just drive by and say, there's a problem there, let's fix it. It is estimated that over 80%, I would say, in our situation, with all the work we've done, well over, I'm going to guess 80% of the water that infiltrated our sanitary sewer system came from private connections. And I think it's a little bit ironic that in the last 6 months, we've been talking about that. We've been discussing ways that we can address that. It's complicated. It's not every community, and Marshall's not the only community that has this issue. Grant's been, I don't know how many conferences, and there's not an easy solution. I mean, as a public utility, you can't go into private property and start poking your nose around and looking for things that you can't see otherwise. So, we're going to continue to move forward with our plan, and I think after we have we talked, we're going to put in the budget a system flow study, modeling of our collection system next year. I think once we have those numbers, we'll have better information to have a plan and develop that plan. And these are things we already had in place, not because of this type of event, but because the sanitary sewer mains have been fixed to a point. We were starting to see issues at our treatment plant. We're either going to have to make an investment there, or we're going to have to make an investment where those dollars best spent. So I think once we have this study, we'll have a little bit more information. This will take time. We've had a lot of people pick up claims. There's been some things posted on the internet. There are no connections between storm sewers and streets to the sanitary sewer line. There are no valves. We don't dump street water into the sanitary sewer system. And it's just, DNR wouldn't allow it. It wouldn't make sense to do it anyway. I mean, that's not even a logical situation. We can't control how much rain comes down. We can't control how much infiltration we get from private connections. And it's unfortunate people had flooding, sewers backed up. But to kind of point fingers and say things that aren't true is a little bit frustrating on my part. I think I passed a brochure out to you guys. I'm working with Burns and McDonald to have something updated to help educate the public a little bit on how that actually works, and some ideas they can do in the short term, putting valves on their service lines, things like that. That's not going to keep rainwater out, but if you're in a low-lying area and you've had a sewer backup, it probably would be advisable for you to put something like that on. So we're currently working on information we can pass out. This may not happen again for 50 years. I hope it doesn't. But if it does, maybe people would understand a little bit better. I don't know what the estimated total is going to be on this yet. It's going to be expensive. You guys know we've got a $9 million project, approximately $9 million project coming up. We don't have the money to spend in this department. I'm very hopeful we can get some SEMA reimbursement. When Tony gets back, we're going to start talking about rate increases. That's just, it's inevitable. what we've discussed and how we would like to move forward with that. We've done some research and looked at other utilities is have public meetings. I'm sure the public's gonna have a lot of questions. I think we could have Burns and McDonald come down and maybe help explain the whys. Why are we spending $9 million on final clarifiers and aeration basins and those type of things? I think that's a good approach. Provides public input and an opportunity to provide education to the public. I mean, I don't know. A lot of people don't have opportunity to come to the meetings we have. That's why we started live streaming them. And I think if we can have these in the evenings and maybe get more information out as to why we're having increased rates, what we're doing with that money, would be a very good path to take. So I'll move on. I could probably talk about this kind of stuff forever. We do have one action item. As I mentioned, we don't have the funds. We don't know where this is going to come in at. We would like to access our insurance cash reserve. We have reserves. We don't like to use them, but I think this demonstrates why we have them. If we didn't, this would be bad, really bad. So we do have a recommendation to allow those reserves to be accessed if needed. We do have a T-bill coming up here in a couple weeks, and we're just gonna not re-up that and allow access for those funds if needed.
Fortunately, that reserve's not gonna touch it.
No, and that's something we need to evaluate. You know, these reserve levels were established 20 years ago. Things cost quite a bit more, so at some point we probably need to look at maybe increasing those reserve levels. But that's a whole different thing, but it's worth mentioning.
I think your eyes aren't gonna touch it, but it's a good start. I make a motion to approve use of the wastewater insurance cash reserve fund to pay for repairs to the wastewater treatment plant from flood damage if needed. Second.
Been a motion and second to approve use of the wastewater insurance cash reserve fund to pay for repairs to the wastewater treatment plant from flood damage if needed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you, gentlemen. Not a whole lot more to add. We're continuing to work. I mean, we've got a lot of things in motion. I don't know that anybody quite knows the ARPA funding and how that's supposed to work. A lot of people, been working with a lot of people. Of course, I've been sidetracked here a little bit lately, but Burns McDonald's looking into that for us. I mean, there's funding there. It's for wastewater, water, and broadband. And I certainly think some of the projects we have going on would fit that program perfectly. So we continue to look down that path. I think we did turn in to our local representative an amount of $6 million that we would like to have for our treatment plant modifications. I've also turned in the North Street Pump Station project, and I've also mentioned the sewer system study, flow study and modeling. Hopefully that would qualify. We're kind of trying to come up with anything we think may qualify that we not only have going now, but maybe in the future. And you know, hopefully, realistically, we're not going to get all that covered. But if we can get some of our bigger projects, some funding there, I think would be fantastic for the community. So continuing to do that, to get the contract signed and those sent to Burns McDonald for the North Street project. The city did receive their first bill from Remco Demolition. I did include a copy of that here, and it did have kind of the payment, how to expect those payments if they've got it broken up into different phases. And I appreciate that being on the bill. I think that's going to help Tony figure out, kind of how and where we need to move some money around. needed to pay those bills, so. I think that's pretty much all I have for now. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions.
I was gonna ask probably Jennifer, because you've been out of the office quite a bit. How's the opening of the office going? Pretty good, you think?
I think it's doing good. I don't think people realize that it's open yet, so it's not been flooded.
Not been flooded.
But-
Everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, it gets sanitized at the end of the day with Microban, I think is what it is. It's a 24-hour disinfectant. So, yeah, I think I've not heard the ladies say anything.
I think it's going pretty good.
Good.
Yeah, and what's working good, and I want to thank our customers for it, is we're not getting a lobby full of people. You know, there's a couple customers in there at a time. You know, social distancing seems to be practiced still, and we are doing some disinfecting. And I haven't seen the lines at the drive-through window like you normally see.
Oh, good.
And so I was in there this weekend working a few times. I think that deposit box gets used quite a bit because you can hear the noise when you're in the building, and the first few times it makes you jump and you wonder who's in here, and then you realize it's the night deposit box. And that thing's been very popular, and I'm happy and glad to see customers taking advantage of that too. I think that kind of helps with the situation, but just a little bit I've been up front. I think things will work.
Thank you.
Jeff, when we have a claim of a customer on this flooding, do we send someone out to?
We don't. How that works, I think there's a misconception out there as well. So that insurance is liability insurance. And that liability insurance covers us if we're negligent. If we would do something that caused the problem. And what happens at that point, and we just turn those into insurance. Insurance would get a hold of us, and you know, typically if it's one house, they're going to say, well, when's the last time you cambered that main? When's the last time you cleaned that main? In other words, have you done the things that you've needed to do, you know, as a utility to take care of that? And you know, if we have, then they're not going to pay the claim. I mean, it just, that's how it works. And if we've done something or haven't done something that we should have, then there's a chance they could. So really the insurance, they may go out and look at it, but typically they'll you know, take the claim. They'll ask us to send them records for, you know, whatever we have. We've got a lot of claims this time. You know, as I've mentioned before, we can't control the amount of rain. We can't control the amount of water that enters the private systems, which is probably more miles of private system than there is public system. We just can't control that. And I believe, and I think our records will show that we've done an excellent job maintaining the public system. So I don't want to speak for the insurance company. I mean, they're the ones that make that determination, but you know, I just feel, all I can say is I feel like we've done a very good job doing everything. And the records show it since 2008. I think I gave you guys some of those statistics earlier. So, but that's kind of how insurance works. We maybe should have done a better job of explaining that on social media this week. We've got some staff out, and we've been extremely busy trying to find time to just even answer the few questions that we've had. Has been tough. So, but hopefully that'll help, and that answers your question, Ken.
Is there any other questions for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. Let's move on to cash disbursements.
couple big payments in there. This would normally be one of our lower bills. You got the Remco payment. And then there was, a Remco payment, there was one more in there. As well, I think. Oh, that actually wasn't a payment. What you'll see in there, as Tony mentioned to me, those are transfers into the accounts that we've just set up for the generators.
That $327,000.
Yeah, there's a total there, 327,000, correct. Correct. So that's not, we're just transferring that to, after the February event, we want to make sure we've got, you know, they saved us a lot of money and generate income, and we need to make sure we take a part of that and put back to take care of those assets. So that's a little bit of a change you'll see in here as well.
Make a motion to pay the bills?
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There's no need for executive session unless you gentlemen have questions on what was in the packet. So, yeah, if you don't have any questions, then there's no need for that.
Is there any other business within the board? Next meeting will be Thursday, July 15th. Hope that works for everybody. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Grant, did my new neighbors ever find their tap?
Yeah,